Energy.
There it is. Premed office hours. That was the longest lead up to like when I pressed go live to when it actually went live.
Yeah.
Premed office hours, episode 217. My name, Dr. Ryan Gray, founder of Mappd Medical School Headquarters, and author of some books, host of some podcasts, colleague of these two amazing people. Dr. Christine Crispin, former director of admissions at UC Irvine. None of our banners are in here. Darn it! Where? Oh no, here they are. Wait, no, that's not it. Premed office. There we go. Everything's different with this new setup. Yeah. Anyway, there's people here. We're here to answer some questions. Christine, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I am flustered, but we're good. We're good.
All right.
This has been my week the last week. I was in Gainesville giving a talk to a pre-med club there, and we were rushing coming from Tampa. There was traffic. There was a Morgan Wallen concert that like blocked off all these like roads and traffic in and around Tampa because of the concert. And anyway, like I got to Gainesville with like 3 minutes to stop at the hotel, change, iron my shirt, put on my normal speaking attire, and ran to campus. And like it was the most like tangential talk I've ever given. I was all over the place, but it was fun. It worked. But anyway, that's my brain right now. So yeah, if you're in the Florida area, hopefully you stay safe with Milton barreling down on you all.
I know some schools have actually stopped their interviews for the next week or so, and they're rescheduling everybody. That's kind of filtering back through some of our students, and I'm glad that they're doing it. But it's causing some disruption in the cycle.
Lots of ripples. Anyway. Courtney Lewis, former director of admissions at Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine. Also you were on lots of national committees, making some big decisions and helping people learning and growing and all that fun stuff. How you doing, Courtney?
I was cool at one point. Yeah,
you were cool. You're still cool. You're cooler now.
Doing a lot.
You're not in the role of being mean and rejecting people. So you're
That's true. That's true. I'll tell you the nickname. I had DCC. So because I was blonde and the Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, but also what they said is it stood for Dream Crusher Courtney. So now I would like to remove that, but
yeah,
I was always Dream Killer.
Yes.
I was the Dream Killer. I swear, my husband bought me a T-shirt that literally said Dream Killer.
Yeah. All right.
It was so hard. It was so hard. It's much better being on this side of things.
It is.
Yeah, we can all agree with that. But yeah, doing well. Just got back from Greece, so I can't. No complaints on my end.
If you are new here, we get to answer your questions live for the next 50 minutes or so. We started a little bit late today. A little bit of a new setup that we were using. Took a minute, but we are here. And so whatever questions you have about the application process, about your personal statements, interviewing, anything like that, that's what we're here for. So put them in the comments. We'll answer them as best we can. Christine, I want to start with you. We have, I got a question the other day, someone who's a California resident, but is concerned about their being yield protected out because of their, I think, Southeast Asian ethnicity. And even though they have like a 3.9 and a 5.16, I think it was, they're like, I'm concerned about even applying to California schools because they're not going to accept me because of my race and because California schools are hard anyway. California stopped race-based admissions long before the Supreme Court overturned. Mm-hmm. How should students think about that process, or parents even, when they're looking at a student who's a really good student, but they're really concerned about going, oh, this is and I'll use air quotes here, overrepresented minority, because that's not really a thing.
I think, I actually attended the NAP talk yesterday about holistic review as well. And I agree with it because I was thinking a lot about this in the sense that I was trained it's a part of their story. I think when a student is applying to California school or any school, I don't think California, it's notoriously difficult, but I don't think they're any different. They got to still tell their story, their journey. They can't, you cannot be overly reliant just on your high metrics. You have a story to tell. You have things that you have done. You have things you have brought to the table. If you have a goal of a school and you are mission fit for them, you write why you're a good fit for them. You're not going to sit there and say, you can't make an assumption that because someone is or isn't of a particular race, they aren't going to get accepted. I just don't think that's the case. Race is not supposed to be the sole factor in a decision. Again, as I talked about yesterday, it certainly is. If you were impacted by your race in terms of any discrimination, you have a journey, but race isn't the only part of that journey that you're going to talk about and describe.
Yep. All right. JB833 asks, would sending my spring quarter grades count as a substantial update to send to medical schools? Grades were good. Courtney, if someone has good grades and they get more good grades, is that going to help? Or if they have bad grades and they get some good grades, is that going to help?
Help, yes. I would say it's never a bad thing. That is what we continue to want to see. Whether it's going to change any type of decision or communication that's already been sent to you, may not. But keeping an up-to-date application for what you can, and the editable parts of the application, which are very few, once you click submit and it gets verified, is not a bad thing to do. Should you contact schools with that update? Probably not. It should automate if you upload your transcripts and things like that, but I would lean probably no. It doesn't count as a substantial.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. JB8833. Rochelle, just finished reading your personal statement book. It was super helpful. For those who don't know, my personal statement book, the Premed Playbook, Guide to the Medical School Personal Statement. I have an interview book and an application book. I am actively working on my parent book, so that's fun. Doing lots of brainstorming around that. Hopefully get your crazy parents off your back. And if you're a parent watching this, you're not crazy. It's your kids. Like, your kids are crazy. Albert, do you think interviews would continue to transition to in-person? I did get 2 invites so far, and both are in person. So very interesting that this person's experience is 2 for 2, being in person. I don't know. I think we have seen most interviews are staying virtual. So
easier.
It's just random.
I prefer it to stay virtual.
Yeah, it requires a lot less resources
for the school.
We used to have to find rooms to book, faculty to be present in a certain space, where now you can use alum, right? Because they have times and you can just figure out what times are available, open those times. So it's a lot less resource intensive.
Yeah.
And it's more accessible to students. They're not having to fly all over the country 3, 4, 5 times. It's expensive and it's not attainable for everybody.
Right.
And oh, by the way, we have had major hurricane after major hurricane. It's better for the environment if we're not flying around the country for things that we don't need to be flying around the country for.
I will say, if you have an opportunity to do an in-person and it's something you can swing, it's not a bad idea. I think what's helpful about being on campus is, one, you can kind of feed off of the energy of the day. Everybody's wanting to make a good impression. You get to actually see the school and the spaces that you would actually be in. And as somebody who is potentially going to be spending up to 12 hours a day on that campus pretty consistently.
12?
Yeah, exactly. it's nice to be in that space, see where the buildings are, see what resources are available, get to interface potentially with some students who are just kind of out and about on campus or in some of the study areas. So I do think if you're gonna commit to a school, it's nice to have already been on campus. That was one of the things that I enjoyed the most as a director, was kind of hosting those days to show everybody what's out there. But I think it's helpful, personally.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Good questions. Keep them coming. Abraham, is it a problem that I just started my 3rd year of pre-med and have 0 experiences? I plan to start experiences this year.
Ooh.
Christine, it's not uncommon for students to get wrapped up in academics, because they get overwhelmed by it. They're anxious about their grades. They're being told you have to have a 4.0. You're never going to get into med school. And so by the time they look up from their books and they're like, oh, shoot, I'm supposed to apply to medical school in 3 months, and they haven't stepped foot off of campus into a clinic or started to shadow or do anything other than be a good student, what does that look like? And what opportunities, options should a student kind of pursue at this point?
I mean, so you want to get started in your clinical experiences, your community service, your research, whatever it is you're going to do. Is it a problem? Not necessarily. I just think you have to be realistic in the timing of your overall application then. Please don't assume that now that you're a 3rd year, which I'm assuming means you're a junior, that you're thinking that you're applying in the coming cycle without a gap year. You will not be ready for that. So let's be clear. But take your junior year, take your senior year, be open-minded to a potential extra gap year to really build up the profile that would make you the strongest, most competitive applicant you can be. I'm not a fan of just throwing it out there to see what happens. I think you should look at the totality of your application and apply when you feel it is the strongest. And that may take a year or 2, maybe 3, because I would advise someone to start as a sophomore and spend their sophomore, junior, senior years really building that profile.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of people will go, like gap year. I don't want to take a gap year. I just want to go straight through.
This conversation a lot lately.
Yeah. In which case we say, do you want to go to med school or do you want to go to med school now? Like there's 2 different questions, and a lot of people are just in a rush for some reason.
I had this conversation where I said, so what's the difference of a second gap year if you apply and spend all this money, still don't get in, and then you're forced to take the gap year, or you just go in knowing you're taking the gap year, doing the exact same thing. You're just not spending thousands of dollars down the drain.
Exactly.
Another aspect of this is if you backload all of this, you don't get to show any consistency, and you're kind of at the whim of just what's available right now.
Yep.
And so it makes it really hard, especially if you're still in school full time. You're going to have a really hard time covering all of your bases if you're backing everything.
Yep. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck. All right. This question coming up all the time with all the new schools that are opening right now. Albert, are there any tips when applying to new medical schools? Example, Burrell's new school in Florida, or Meritus in Maryland, given the federal loans not being given for the first year or 2, or potentially even a lot more.
Yep.
Right. So just a brief rundown. Traditionally, the Department of Education, for whatever reason, won't give federal loans for schools that are preliminarily accredited, meaning they can start accepting students and go through their first class, but they won't, the Department of Education won't offer loans until that school is fully accredited, which for medical schools means they have to graduate their first class. The accreditation body has to come in, whether it's COCA or LCME, has to come in and do their inspection one more time, and then hopefully give the stamp of approval. And then the school gets to go back to the Department of Education and says, okay, we're ready. And then however long that process takes for those loans. So it can be a while, unfortunately. I think NORDA is going through that pain right now. there's some potential issues going on that some parents are talking about that I saw the other day. So yeah, I don't know, right? Courtney, you may have some insight into this with Burrell opening in Florida. Burrell opened up, as far as I know, as far as I think you mentioned, they're opening up under the same accreditation of New Mexico, right? As a branch?
I'm
or
not
no?
sure. Actually, I'm not sure. I was having to go through, I left right as we were kind of going into all of it, but I was mainly dealing with the Florida higher ed, which is just as strenuous, I would say, as some of the national organizations to be able to open up a campus. But for any MD or DO school, it is a reality that you will have to finance it a different way. Some schools have trust funds set aside, so if anything were to happen, they would give you back your money. Like you have to have that, and then help you get seats at other schools. That really hasn't had to happen, but at least you have that buffer. Another thing to consider that I have seen in the past is federal loan interest rates aren't always the lowest you can get. And so some people opted to not utilize that funding and go private, but it depends on your individual financial situation. So it may not have much of an impact for some people, depending on how they were looking to finance. You can see if schools have scholarships set aside. A lot of them will have scholarships to kind of offset some of the cost. The biggest cost is usually not tuition to go to the school, it's cost of living. And so look at cost of attendance as a metric, because that's the loan that you're going to have to be pulling out, because you can't work, you still have to pay for insurance. What about parking fees and tolls and groceries and gas and rent? Like that is where the cost really ends up being, because tuition is fairly fixed. So that's what I would kind of look to. Talk to some lenders. They usually have a page for financial aid of some of the lenders that they work with that work with a lot of medical students that can potentially give you better rates anyways.
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I was in med school, I was in Westchester County, which is one of the wealthiest counties in the country, and which means cost of living is really expensive. And I had my my Air Force stipend, which I think was $2,100 a month or something. And I had friends who were also doing the Air Force scholarship in like St. Louis or in these Midwestern towns going to school, and they were saving money from their stipend. And I was still borrowing money because the cost of living was just atrocious. So yeah, it's a huge part of it. I think that's something that a lot of people don't take into account is the tuition is relatively fixed, but where you go across these different places is where a lot of that impact can be made, and potentially sacrifices as well. Like, can you live in a house with 5 roommates instead of living solo in a fancy new apartment, right? So there are potential options there to save some money.
That's for any school, right? That's for any medical school that we're talking about. These costs can be very different depending on location and where you're doing your affiliated rotation.
Yep. Good luck. Lith, I need clarification on this. I was reading this earlier. Do medical schools, I'm consider driving history other than anything other than DUI or an accident resulting in injury or death? So my guess is that Lith has a kind of a lead foot and has lots of speeding tickets and is maybe concerned about that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do med schools care unless it's misdemeanor level?
Certain states have a misdemeanor, right?
Yep.
I think that's how the state categorizes it too. You know, because I think there are some states that do categorize that kind of thing. I used to be the certified background person when I was at Irvine, and I was trying to think back to see if something, I think I would say when in doubt, just disclose.
Oh yeah.
When in doubt, just disclose what you might be concerned about, just in case. They can, you know, I had a lead foot too, so I don't judge. But I used to get, California, you can go to traffic school every like 2 or 3 years, and I was pretty much consistent about traffic school options.
Everyone knew you there. Hey, Christine, welcome back.
How you doing? So, I don't judge, but it's probably safer to disclose. And
Courtney, you reacted to that.
I have seen things on it. If it is a certain speed above what is posted, it becomes aggravated. And so then you start having other types of discussions about it. So there's that. There's been people who have gotten citations for having drug paraphernalia within their cars when they are pulled over. And so that is also cited. Things like that. So, and then, yeah, Colorado and Texas are two I can easily recall having misdemeanor charges for any type of speeding. But
no, not Colorado. I live here. My wife was just got a speeding ticket. Yeah, Colorado.
Okay.
Maybe that's changed recently.
Then Texas. Yeah.
Texas,
but,
I know of.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but yes, for certain kind of egregious or repeated offenses or these additional add-ons, they definitely show up.
I'm Googling what states consider speeding a misdemeanor. So Colorado, it's a misdemeanor 25 over. So kind of what you were mentioning, right? How fast over. That's the first thing that popped up. Probably just based on my IP address. It's like, oh, you're in Colorado. I'm going to give you all the Colorado info. Anyway. So yeah, Google, figure it out. When in doubt, I mean, my when in doubt is go pay a couple $100 to a lawyer to ask some questions because they have the answers theoretically. And then I've done a couple podcast interviews with my uncle Larry, who is a lawyer. He's been on twice on the Premed years, so you can go check those out. Talking about arrest records, any sort of issues, and kind of really the heart of the discussion is what specifically is the question asking. It's like really, right? Just lawyers are lawyers. They're always going to nitpick the words. And it's like, well, based on the wording of this, you don't have to disclose, but you see how that one word over here is different. This one you will have to disclose. And it's just like, oh my God, lawyers, man.
That's how I advise my students. I told them, read it back to me word for word, what it says on their secondary or something like that. Because it doesn't say that, you are not held, right?
Yep.
So absolutely, those words matter a lot.
Yeah. Calixto here. Transferred from my previous school with a 3.99, struggling in my second semester, second year as a sophomore, they clarified later. A B in biology 1, an A- in organic chemistry 1.
There's the struggle.
Where don't they stop the struggle? No issues there, my friend. Give yourself some grace. You're good.
Please.
An A- is not a bad grade. A B is not a terrible grade.
An A- in organic chemistry? That's definitely not a bad grade.
I mean, I got A's, so I mean.
OChem 2 was probably the class I saw the most season.
Yeah. Yep. That is the weed out class, as they say, which I don't like using that term, but hey. It's, to me, weed out is, this requires a lot more work than I'm willing to give. Like, it's not meant to be hard. It's just like, there's a lot of work here. That's the weed out.
I don't know. I've given some presentations where I'm talking to pre-med students and do I have to take more science courses? Do I have to do this or that? And like, if you are already trying to skirt as much of it as you can, you need to reassess what you're 100%. Going into.
Yeah.
This is not for you then. Right?
This is not the amount of work that I want to put into this. Right. I think that's the decision for most people.
Yep.
I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough at this subject. It's like, this is going to take more work than I'm willing to put in.
I've seen some eyes go as soon as we start talking about that, plus all of the other stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Nina asks, is it advisable to quit my current job due to personal issues and start another one the same year? I apply. I'm currently working in a nursing home as a CNA. This is my only clinical experience.
Ooh.
Oh, Courtney, a lot of people are concerned about when we talk about consistency in activities, they go, oh, I can't quit the thing I'm doing because that will not be consistent, even though if I quit it, I'm planning on going into a different clinical experience because it works better with my schedule or it works better due to personal issues, whatever it may be. There's concern that the med schools are going to nitpick that and go, oh, you're not dedicated to this.
No, no.
No.
Do what you got to do in your life, right? It's if that will be a better situation, put you in a healthier environment, potentially get you some letters out of it, things like that. There is no issue. It's when you have big gaps of time when you're not doing anything, and then it's like, what was going on here in this big chunk? But transition between jobs, you guys are pre-meds. That's fairly common. To jump from job to job based on what's available and all of the things that the medical schools are asking you to gain exposure to. So this is a non-issue.
Yep. Non-issue. Astrid says thank you. You're welcome. Rudolph. One school I applied to asked for any speeding ticket history. Don't remember the name of the school or state. Okay. There you go. Depends on the school, what they're going to ask for. Jawad, thoughts on the VA HPSP? It is with the Veterans Affairs Department, 5 to 6 year commitment, working for the VA after residency. So I'll speak to this one a little bit, right? The HPSP scholarship, health profession scholarship program, historically, the 3 branches of the military that offered it were Army, Navy, and Air Force. The VA is relatively new within the last 5 years or so, where the VA said, hey, we also have a HPSP scholarship. Now, this is really interesting because there's no deployment risk with the VA, right? When you are with the Army, Navy, or Air Force, your main job is to be ready to deploy at a moment's notice. And I don't know if you've seen the state of affairs in the world these days. Deployment's probably relatively certain for many people, unfortunately. But working at the VA, right, you're working at a hospital here in the States. I don't know off the top of my head, and I should know this, shame on me, if there are any like VAs internationally. I don't think so. I think they're just local here in the States. But yeah, it's interesting. I think I looked at the data when it first came out. I think there were some much stricter restrictions with the VA. Like you have to have a certain background to be able to apply for the VA HPSP, or maybe it was just the first couple of years. So yeah, go for it. I don't think there's any issue. You're basically signing on for a job to pay for your medical school, guaranteeing that job, that place of employment that you're going to work there for several years. And it's worth it to them. I think the number I saw, it wasn't that recently ago, is it costs an institution about $1 million to recruit a physician. And so if the VA can spend $250,000 on your tuition and not spend $1 million recruiting you, it's worth it to them. So it's all a math game at the end of the day. Good luck. Another thank you. Showing up every Wednesday and answering our questions. You're welcome. Tanya asks, I've had interviews, but I'm unsure if it's going right. I find myself having a conversation that feels surface level rather than a deep dive into my experiences. A lot feels unsaid by the end. Is that okay? Courtney, we historically as humans are very bad judges of our experience, where a student will, well, I think everyone has this experience. You walk out of a test, you're like, oh, that was terrible. I did horrible. I'm going to bomb it. And you get back and you got a 95. You're like, oh, I guess it wasn't that bad. I've had conversations with deans and directors of admissions talking about feedback that they get on interview day saying, hey, this interviewer hated me and it was terrible. And
I've gotten that.
And they'll go back and read the comments from the interviewer and it's all glowing things of like, hey, this student was amazing.
Yeah.
how should Tanya think about her interviews or their interviews here?
You can do a mock interview with us and we can straight up tell you.
That's the easy answer. Yeah.
If you're going about it right or wrong. But that's a hard one because there's a lot of different personalities of interviewers who are gonna come at it a slightly different way. Depends on the number of questions they're asking you, how quickly you're moving through the material. But I would say if you're staying almost all superficial, you may not be providing enough depth, because if I'm an interviewer and I'm walking out of the interview saying, it's like pulling teeth trying to get any details. I was having to ask a lot of follow-up questions, or we were just cruising through them. We didn't have much to talk about. They weren't really strong impressions one way or the other. Seems like they can handle it academically though. Waitlist. And that's kind of how it happens. So there may be a bit of an issue where organically you need to just assume that they do want a bit more, especially if they ask you like a hypothetical and they say, what do you do? And you just rush to the end. Not helpful. If I'm asking you what you do, I need quite a bit of detail about how you handle it and why it's important to handle it that way. So potentially, but I agree. You can't temperature check your interviewers. That's something that I tell all of my mock interview students. You have no idea what is going on in their mind. No idea. Could be on purpose that they're being fairly withholding. I've had people answer phone calls during candidate interviews. I've had people that only ask one question the whole time. Why didn't you get in last year? And just drill, drill, drill. So you don't know. And it's kind of hard to give a blanket answer on this because there's so many different dynamics at play. So you kind of need quite a bit of detail to be able to speak to that, but it consistently, you're kind of ending a bit early and it seems to go very, very fast. You're probably not providing enough detail, is what I would assume.
Yep.
And I would also think if you feel something is left unsaid, why is it still being left unsaid? Many times you're given an opportunity at the end to kind of close that last part of the loop. Are you not doing that?
Yeah, and my initial reaction to that is I've had students in the past when I'm doing mock interviews that will purposefully not give me part of their answer, assuming the interviewer is going to ask follow-up questions. I'm like, no, don't assume anything in this situation. Give the answer that you need to give the information you need to give. And if there are follow-up questions on top of that, great. But don't withhold, assuming there are going to be more follow-up questions that will let you have the opportunity to give the information that you're withholding.
Yep.
All right, Luke, if I took a gap year between high school and college and I was a shift supervisor at a restaurant, will that be too old to put on my application? I love this. This argument comes up a lot with parents. For some reason, parents like to argue this. The application, the medical school application activities should be anything after the start of college versus the activities on the medical school application should be anything after high school graduation. Just like which one, and does it really matter? I don't know. What do you guys think?
What's the purpose of putting it on there? I mean, I like to think that you're either in college or you've gone through some things and you have picked up some leadership roles, you've done some additional things. I don't see the huge added benefit to adding this to your application unless there's not a lot of other things on there, which is a bigger concern.
Yeah. So that's the question. It's obviously, I'm assuming, a full-time job. So lots of hours. Are they just looking at padding their hours? Or was it something super meaningful because they were the shift supervisor?
Or trying to show leadership early on when they were young. I can see it, but
yeah, I would say put it on. I'm a anything after high school person, not anything after the start of college person. Sarah asks a question. How common is it to get research at an institution that I have no connection to? I didn't study or work there, just interested in their research, specifically talking about NYU and NYCOCME. Yeah, I don't know. Reach out and find out. I think it's so school specific or institution specific, whether the positions are for students at their own institution or not. Yeah.
I've seen it.
Mhm.
I've seen plenty of people, like Johns Hopkins is an easy one, where people coming from all different types of schools have research coordinator positions with them.
Nope. Box braids and box jumps. Please do more mini mock interviews. So for those who don't know, we did some mini mock interviews as part of a content series to do free interviews with students, and in exchange for recording them and putting them up as content to help other people, because that's one of the things that we really love to do here is create content and put it on the internet so other people can learn. So yeah, we will stay tuned for those. Samarie, is it a good idea to do a do-it-yourself post-bacc if my GPA trend is 29, 305, 3196, 316? Yes, you need some more work there, my friend. I don't see much of a trend there. So get it up. Up. I want to play that. Is it Matthew McConaughey that says it? Someone like those are rookie numbers. From The Wolf of Wall Street, I think that's from. Yeah.
Is that Leonardo DiCaprio?
Is it Leo? I think it might be Leo.
I think he's Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
We don't watch rated R content on this.
Speak for yourself. Maya, when you talk about an upward trend in your GPA, are you referring to just science or also the total cumulative? Is it a red flag if my science GPA has an upward trend, but cumulative GPA goes up and down? I don't know how that's possible unless you're not taking many science courses. Right? If you're taking like one science course a semester, the rest are non-science. And so your one science course a semester is going up, but everything else is going down. I don't know.
I mean, they want to see USC. Yeah. When we used to get the GPA on the application, they looked at the cumulative GPA too. You know, you don't, nothing is excluded. So is it a red flag? I don't know what your numbers are, so I can't determine whether or not it's a red flag, but it certainly could spring a question of why is your numbers going up and down rather than being consistent? You know, what's happening in the jump.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Money Mo, in Application Academy, do you talk and explain about the MD PhD process and the 2 other essays required? I'm having a hard time finding info about the MD PhD process. Yes, we do. Stay tuned. We will open up Academy again. The cohort will start in January of next year. We're going to a new format with 2 instructors per session, which should be a lot more fun for you all. Get multiple points of opinion at each session. And yeah, a much more structured syllabus this time around, going back to kind of an old way that we did it that we think worked a little better.
Well, we've had students who have been part of Academy applying for MD, PhD who have been successful in gaining seats, like even just this past year.
Yep. Sarah saw the PS or BS teaser on social media, but can't find the episode on YouTube. Where is it posted? I don't know if it's posted yet. Stay tuned. Just keep looking. Yeah. That first episode went out and it was super blurry. I'm like, what happened here? They're like, the first minute and a half was blurry. I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. Oh, well. All right. I think we've gotten to all of the questions. Quick little plug. If you are interested in working with our amazing advisors, you can do so at medicalschoolhq.net. Use the promo code PMOH to save a little bit of money working with our advisors for interview prep, like our student who's questioning whether her interviews are going or their interviews are going well. So one-on-one interview prep, essay editing, application academy we have, which is our group advising. We help with it all. And then we also show up here every week and help out for free too. So go do that.
You can talk about MappdCon.
Albert says, join Application Academy. It will help. Thanks, Albert.
We love Albert.
Yeah.
Hi, Albert.
So MappdCon, obviously, MappdCon.com, presented by Blueprint Test Prep. Go register. It is free. It is October 26th. It is a Saturday this year, and it will be awesome. We have tons of great sessions lined up. We have a MD admissions, or not MD admissions panel, but a med school admissions panel. We have a PA school admissions panel. We have you guys are giving talks. I'm giving a talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a lot of fun for everyone. Christine, what's your talk on?
Like the kind of a 4-year competitive plan, early pre-med focus.
Nice.
Kind of getting going.
And Courtney, what's yours?
Competitive application, filling it out, making sure you're covering all the bases and what to focus on, which I love talking about.
So here's our wonderful speaker lineup. Got a great variety of people, as you can see, free to register. And then our agenda.
I will also say, even if you're in an active application cycle and you're like, oh, I don't need to talk about submitting an application. I already did that. Hopefully you get in and you won't need that information. So you're right. But there's a lot of really good chances to interface with some med schools and things like that too. So I would encourage you to still attend.
Yep. There's my talk, planting the seed of your personal statement, something I really like to talk about. Again, you can see we have 3 tracks lined up. We have a med school track, we have a PA school track, and then we have a pre-health track that will be going as well. You can see RT from Capier speaking here about clinical experiences. Capier helps you find clinical experiences during your gap years. We have Arkansas College of Osteopathic Medicine giving a talk on the personal statement as well. There's Courtney's talk, med school application. Can refine that topic a little bit more. Yeah.
Mine's like at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We also, for those of you who may come from a Spanish-speaking household, we have, I think, I don't know, it's pretty unique, I think, in our world, a Spanish presentation given by 2 of our advisors who are fluent Spanish speakers, native, as far as I know, Spanish speakers, that will be specifically for the parents, helping them understand the process for you as kids. So go check that out. So yeah, that is, oh, there's Christine's.
Yep.
Awesome. Savannah Perry, founder of the PA platform, giving a talk as well. So yeah, come hang out with us. Again, it is free to register.
Albert
All right,
has
friends.
a good question.
What was that?
Albert has a good question on tips for talking to med schools when you're in those breakout rooms and stuff.
Yeah, Courtney, you've done a lot of tabling, recruiting students.
A lot.
Talk about the good, the bad, the ugly with students interacting with you.
Well, first off, they're probably not going to tell you about the status of your application because they're not going to have that pulled up. So you can tell them that you've submitted an application, but don't think that you're going to pull them aside and say, can I have a glimpse behind the veil of where I'm at? No, it's not going to happen. Yep. But you can build rapport, right? Saying, I've actually got an active application with you, and talking about the school, showing interest, showing that you've kind of done some of the research and then asking follow-up questions on it, attending. You'd be surprised. Virtual stuff, I don't know if it's because people think it's just available. Sometimes you get a lot of kind of one-on-one, 5-to-1 odds in talking with somebody. That gives you a really good opportunity. I can tell you for a fact, I have recruited people and seen them matriculate from attending these types of things, even in-person health fairs. So they are well worth your time. When everything is just numbers and letters on a page, if they can put a face to that, have a really positive interaction to add to that, where you kind of decrease the risk, it's a little bit more of a known, it can be really helpful. So I would encourage you to do that. Don't ask about your status. Should go without saying, but be professional, be careful about the questions that you're asking. Don't ask dirty laundry questions, which is like, what's a time where leadership listened to students and made a change? What's one thing that you wish the school kind of had but may have in the future? What's a change you would like to see? Or if you're talking to a student, if they have a student on there saying, what's one thing you wish you would have known before coming here? It's like you're spending your free time trying to find what's hidden and wrong instead of trying to have really advantageous discussion about how can I be there and be the best peer, the best classmate, the best student, how can I be best prepared, what matters to you, what initiatives would you like to see us or a new class kind of carry on, what are some of the things that you guys are really proud of that the students are involved in and want to have subsequent classes carry on, things like that. It's a much more positive talk than anything else. So just be careful with what you're asking, what kind of discussion you're leading.
Yep.
That would be my tips.
Nice. Christine, any tips on your side?
I think it's all about just putting your best foot forward and letting them see you as the person behind the application. I was also just thinking about the potential of a follow-up. Dear Dr. So-and-so, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to speak with me. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about one pertinent thing that stands out that you talked about. I appreciate your time and energy, your time and effort. Have a great day. Because then they're back in their office. They can pull your application and potentially look at it with a better eye because now they have your face in mind to attach to that.
Good question, Albert. All right, friends. I hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll end here. Again, medicalschoolhq.net to work with our advisors one-on-one through the application process, interview prep, essay editing, or just you're lost as a pre-med and want to ask some questions and go a lot more in depth than we can go here on our pre-med office hours. So go check that out. Again, PMOH has a promo code to use to save some money. Go check out the Premed Years. Go register for free for MappdCon. Premed Years is a podcast, by the way. If I didn't mention that, go check that out. Thank you for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.